Hello and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, what did the aristocrat say when he first heard about the French Revolution? What a peasant surprise! Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Field Commander Napoleon from DVG. Field Commander Napoleon from DVG is a solitaire war game that's going to allow you to play all of the campaigns of the Emperor right on your tabletop. Now, the game comes with many different counters, which are printed with the different years for the appropriate campaign that they're involved in, and you're also going to have 7 mounted game boards. And these game boards reflect the different scenarios you're going to play through. Some of them have more than one scenario on them. Players are also going to have a battle board, and you're also going to have kind of a player aid help board, which will have crucial information. Now, each scenario setup will tell you where to place your units, any fortifications or garrisons you have, as well as your enemies and their fortifications and garrisons in the various cities on that specific game board. Now, your counter units actually have some important information. They have kind of the number up top that it's going to take to activate them. You're going to want to roll that or below that number, and then you're going to have the strength of that number below it. You're also going to have kind of the type, whether it's an elite, a veteran, a poor, conscript, whatever. Now, on your turn, you can move all of your counters one space, and Napoleon's a counter. He's on the board, and he always has to be with an army. But if you move into a space that has an opposing army, you actually move to the battle board. Now, if you've got kind of a 3-to-1 superiority, you have kind of surrounded the enemy, and there's no battle, they're just gone. But otherwise, you're going to roll for Fog of War. Now, you looked at the Fog of War sheet on the player aid, you're going to see exactly what it tells you. It's going to tell you how many rounds of battle this battle is going to go. It's also going to give you some other information. You may be able to take things from the enemy, you may be able to have certain advantages, or other bad things could happen to you. If you have any scout tokens, you can spend scout tokens to actually do a reroll on the Fog of War chart. Now, during battle, you're going to go ahead and place your units in the appropriate areas. Now, there is a front line, which can potentially hold 6 units, an approaching line, which can potentially hold 4, and your reserve that can hold as many as you want. Now, initially, you can place only in the approaching and the reserve areas. However, each side is going to be able to have battle plans. The scenario will tell you how many battle plans you get. Now, Napoleon will give you a plus modifier. It will give you more battle plans, so you can actually have more battle plans if you've got Napoleon on the field with you. However, you can spend one of your battle plans in order to grab an insight token. Now, an insight token is going to be able to do all sorts of fun and interesting things during the battle. For instance, it will allow you to deploy some of your units in the front section right at the beginning of the battle. It will also allow you to do things like have greater resistance to shock and all sorts of fun and interesting things. Now, you're going to place your units either in column, kind of vertically, or as a line horizontally, and that's going to be important because when you're going to place these battle plans, you can select the number of battle plans that you have. You place them on the specific units. If some of the things say if you're in column, you don't need to roll to activate it. If you're in line, you don't need to roll to activate it. So those things can be very important and useful. You're going to randomly select from a cup a number of battle plans equal to the number of enemy battle plans and place them on the highest ranking units on their side. Now, for both yourself and the enemy, all the units that don't have battle plans on them, you can use default battle plans, which are printed on the battle board. Now, the enemy is going to activate first. They're going to go ahead and execute their battle plans, and then they will try to activate their other units in order to move. But they're marching toward you. They're going to try to, either shoot at you or they're going to try to charge you. And then after you've weathered that storm, you're going to try to do the same thing to them. You're going to execute your battle plans, and then you're going to roll your die to see if you can activate your other guys in order to do some of those default battle plans. Now, if ever a unit enters into a line with other units, you look at that weakest unit in that line, its weakest activation number. You roll the die to see if there's shock. If it's below, you're okay, but if it's above, that unit takes a hit and they must retreat. Hits are scored by flipping that unit over to kind of its spent side. It's got a red stripe through it, and then they would have to retreat in that circumstance. Units that are in the same area engage in melee combat. There's a +3 die modifier there to your rolls. But generally, you're going back and forth. You are rolling to activate your units. You are executing those battle plans, and you are trying to destroy the enemy as best you can. However, there's different ways it can win. If all of the enemy is destroyed, or if you're all destroyed, obviously the battle's over. But if you go to the end of the turn track, you go to the withdrawal space. You look at the withdrawal, you roll the die to see exactly what happens on a withdrawal, and that'll tell you how things will pan out on the battle board. After your battles, you go ahead and you do a resupply phase. Depending on the specific scenario rules, you're going to gain so much in supply. Now you're going to go ahead, you can spend that supply. You can essentially spend some of your supply to turn any damaged units back to their ready side. You can also buy garrisons and fortifications for towns, and there's some other fun and kooky things you can do with those supply points. Now it is your enemy's turn. Now on your enemy's turn, you're going to essentially issue your enemy orders. You do that by rolling the die and consulting the chart on the scenario board. It's going to tell you exactly how they move depending on your die roll. Sometimes how much supply they have is going to factor in and give a dice modifier to what you're rolling. But they're going to be moving usually toward Napoleonic objectives or other objectives, and they're going to be moving toward Napoleon, and they may move into the same spaces as some of the French units. If that happens, again, another battle ensues, and you just go through the same battle procedure. So after the enemy does battle, you go ahead and you roll for resupply for them, and depending on a number of factors, they may have certain things happen to them for their resupply. They may get more units, they may get all sorts of other kooky things. Now, other units can come in on both sides. You can bring in recruits, which are just like a level 1. They only can take one hit, but they're kind of good fodder for the game. And there's kind of some other fun and kooky things that you can get as well. So you go back and forth battling your enemies in the various scenarios, and if you succeed in getting the scenario objectives that are stated on that particular board, then you win! Field Commander Napoleon. So Field Commander Napoleon, I hadn't played any of the Field Commander games from DVG, but they'd always been on my radar. And Napoleon's one I really wanted to play. And I thought it was really cool how you've got the different boards. You've got these small little boards that you play on, but you get a lot of them, and they reflect the actual campaigns that Napoleon fought. And I thought that is very cool. Now, each of these scenarios is called a campaign, but you can actually play them as individual scenarios, or you can string them together into one kind of grand campaign. And keep track of it that way if you want to do that. But the game's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple, straightforward game for the most part. I do have some criticisms. First of all, there are some misprints in the rule book. That was a little off-putting. This is, I think, a reprint. I would have hoped they would have proofread it and caught some of those things there. That was a little off-putting. Not a deal breaker, but not happy about it. Second of all, there were some rules, particularly in battle, that were a little ambiguous, that I didn't quite... I kind of had to house rule some stuff, because there were some things with the battle plans, as I read them, that could be read different ways, and I just wasn't quite sure, like the advancing thing, I wasn't sure if you could advance then attack, or into the next thing, and there are just a few little things I was a little about. Again, not a deal breaker, not a huge deal, and I think it worked fine, and I think I was playing it right, but it is what it is. There's a little ambiguity there. I would have liked things to be just a little bit cleaner in the rules. Now finally, this is probably my biggest criticism of the game. Each of these scenarios typically takes 2 to 3 hours. And I find that about the 2-hour mark in this kind of a game, I start to get a little antsy. I think about, for me, for a solitaire game, 90 minutes is a sweet spot. And then when it gets a little more than 2 hours, I get a little antsy. And I think that's just kind of me. But I kind of feel, so I don't want to come right out and say this is a game that outlasts the fun it generates, because I don't think that's the case. I think this is more of a personal thing. I'm not a huge fan when they go that long. Now, having said those caveats, having said those criticisms, I got to tell you, I really enjoyed this game. I really had fun with it. Generally, this game is it clips, it moves, it's easy to organize for the different scenarios, easy to play, and it's fun. I did one of my components for my PhD was Napoleonic history, the Napoleonic warfare. So I'm a big Napoleon fan. So I really get a kick out of this theme. And it's done very well here, and it's fun, kind of recreating these campaigns. It does a great job with it. The history here is, for what it is pretty well done. One thing, too, I really liked and appreciated about this game is, and I've said this before, in a lot of cooperative games or solitaire games, there's that moment where you're doing the AI's turn and it seems to take forever. And you're like, I want to get back to make my decisions. But it just seems to go on and on. And here, the AI not only clips, not only does the AI go really quick, but it's interesting. You're wondering, where are these armies going to move? I'm trying to figure out where I am. And these armies are going here, here, and here. And of course, sometimes they're not going to take optimum moves. So you're kind of debating, I don't want them to hit me here, I don't want them to hit me here. And they don't. You're like, yeah, or they do. And you're like, Urgh. And it's just, it's really intense. The AI here is fun. Based on die rolls, but I mean, it's fun, and I really got a kick out of it. I think all told, this is a fun game. I will be playing this again and again, I think. Despite the fact that, like I said, I get antsy, I think I could maybe learn to enjoy this one more because it is so much fun. And it's smart, and it's simple to set up and take down, and I've really gotten a kick out of it. I'm actually eager now to play some more because there's more series. There's like a Rommel and a Nimitz, and I'd really like to try some of those in the future because Field Commander Napoleon is a blast. Tremendous fun. And what can I say? Recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Field Commander Napoleon is buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. I'd ask you also please to check out my other YouTube channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we check out military history and related topics. We also look at some books on military history as well. Please subscribe to that channel. Also, we'd ask you to please leave a thumb for us on Board Game Geek to this video if you've enjoyed it. That helps us out a lot as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I've often thought that the French Revolution was not terribly dissimilar from Prohibition in America. I mean, after all, both the French Revolution and Prohibition got rid of bourbon. Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. And they don't. You're like, yeah, or they do, and you're like, Urgh.